If you're part of any online spaces where there's a lot of Sims-obsessed millennials, chances are the topic of machinima comes up every now and then. It's almost like that word activates something in us, like we're sleeper agents ready to list all our favorite music videos, short movies, or series made with our favorite game. But why is that? Well, nostalgia obviously. But what made us so obsessed with these videos in the first place? What made it the go-to type of content to watch or create if you were a Sims 2 fan back in the day? Since my brain loves to devote its precious resources to forming complex answers to questions no one asked, I may have figured out the exact reason for that phenomenon. And the short answer is, it was a perfect storm. A combination of a few different things happening around the same time. And if you look at them all, it becomes crystal clear that there was simply no way Sims 2 Machinima would not be as popular as it was. It was simply meant to be.
We started off with movies as the main idea, let people do the machina video making thing, yeah.
Machinima is a word for movies, shows, or music videos made using a video games engine. The word itself is a blend of two words, namely machine and cinema. This phenomenon actually predates The Sims 2 and is almost as old as 3D games themselves. It seems that since the dawn of 3D graphics, people liked to use video games to make their own movies, even if it required going against the intended use of the game. Making a short movie using a game in the 90s and early 2000s took a lot of creativity because games were not designed with movie-making features in mind. Or were they? It's a bit more complicated. Video games back then sometimes would let you save your replays, or demos, so you could rewatch your gameplay or even share it with other people. One of my favorite childhood games, Driver, even had a so-called film director mode that came with its own little video editor of sorts, and even let you change the camera angles. It might sound impressive because, well, after all, even today if you record your gameplay with OBS or other similar software, there is no way to change the position of the camera after the fact. That's because nowadays we're used to capturing videos that we can play back on whatever device we want. But in the 90s and early 2000s, that was way more difficult due to hardware and software limitations. That's why those replay features back then didn't actually record any videos. Instead, these tools simply stored data about your gameplay, so that when you wanted to watch it again, the game engine simply had to render it again. The first known machinima was titled Diary of a Camper, and was recorded in 1996 using Quake's demo feature. Sharing gameplay replays was actually quite common among the players. What made Diary of a Camper stand out though was that it was structured like a short movie that told a simple story. It was recorded using the online multiplayer mode, with one player acting as the camera, since it was a first-person shooter game, and the remaining players moving their characters as if they were actors themselves. Since Diary of a Camper could not be simply shared in the form of a video, if you wanted to watch it, you actually needed to own a copy of the game, and of course, a computer that could run it. This sounds like a lot of hoops to jump through just to make a minute-and-a-half short film. Why would anyone even bother with that? Well, my guess is that because as humans, we really love telling stories. I'd argue that we love telling stories so much that we will go out of our way to do it, using every possible tool at our disposal, even if it wasn't meant to be used that way.
On the mark, we learned that we can totem pole these guys on top of each other to get any kind of high-angle shot that we want.
And video games, being an interactive visual medium, were kind of great for that. But you know what was even better? A video game designed specifically around self-expression and customization. If video games were potentially a great tool to make your own movie, The Sims 2 was a perfect one, and the developers were perfectly aware of it. I'll tell you more. Not only did they expect us to make machinimas, they were banking on it.
And so that's where I really want to see the game heading. The player starts feeling more like they're the director, in a sense. And after they finish, maybe they can even edit this to some degree and create, in fact, a little movie that they could then share and say, here's a little movie I created.
The Sims 1 came out when the internet was slowly becoming increasingly more important, and the game capitalized on it by allowing players to exchange custom content and share their own stories with the community. What's crazy to me is that the first custom content for The Sims was created before the game even hit the shelves.
We also started building custom tools so the fans could customize the content before we released the game. So the day we released the game, we actually had quite a bit of custom skins and whatnot, and wallpapers and floors on the net, on the fan sites. And we had probably about 30 fan sites the day we shipped.
Let that sink in. Sometime in 2000, there was a brief period where The Sims did not exist yet as a game that could be purchased and played, but there were already people making custom walls and floors for it. If you're ever wondering how come some of us are still playing these games 20 plus years after their release, that is probably why.
We're building this community very indirectly. You know, we're sitting here designing a game, but what comes out of the game eventually is this, very large, thriving community.
When it comes to storytelling tools, the first Sims game came with a photo album feature that let players capture specific moments in their Sims lives and share them online.
Full stories are posted at a rate of about 100 a day. This game has become more than the designers ever thought it would.
It was a clear sign that Sims fans loved using the game to tell their own stories. And since The Sims 2 could basically be summarized as The Sims 1 but bigger and more, it only made sense to extend the already existing storytelling feature from static images to videos.
Hey, Robert. Underneath.
Hi, I'm Tim Letourneau. I'm the senior producer of Sims 2. What I'm going to do first is show you a movie I made using the new Sims 2 movie making feature.
The movie making feature is the new way to tell stories, and it's a huge improvement over what we've seen in the past with Sims 1. We have full motion video capture of everything that's happening on the screen.
The Sims 2's movie making feature is pretty basic. You just press the camera icon and the game outputs a video file into your Documents folder. But compared to the replay features I mentioned before, it was actually a pretty big deal. Although it wasn't the 90s anymore, video recording and sharing capabilities were still quite limited. In order for the game to be able to record videos without obliterating your hard drive, the developers had to include a video codec that would be installed together with the game.
If you have a higher quality scene, it's going to take more space on your hard drive.
As we've established, machinima was a niche type of hobby that required some tech savviness, even from the passive participants, who were only interested in watching other people's creations. But The Sims 2 shipped with a simple built-in movie-making feature that allowed players to record footage in an easily editable and shareable format. What's more, it came with a cameraman mode, which let players adjust the angles even more freely.
In Sims 1, you were fairly constrained with your camera. In Sims 2, you can go anywhere. Go into cameraman mode and take that camera and move it right down to the ground, or move it right at the Sims head level and play with the camera controls.
Up until that point, machinima creators had to rely on workarounds or custom-made tools, as other games simply didn't offer features like these. Interestingly enough, the developers had even more ambitious plans for the movie-making feature. When doing research for this video, I came across this initial brainstorming document from 2003, where they talk about how storytelling has always been an important component of the series. Turns out, they even thought about including a solution similar to the replay features, where the game generates a file with data about a scene instead of an actual video. Basically, they were looking for a way to bypass the long download times, so that players wouldn't have to wait half an hour to watch a video the size of a post stamp. Yeah, the internet in the early 2000s was very slow. I am a bit salty that we never got that silver screen type expansion pack that they mentioned in the document though. But all in all, I'm glad that they focused on the simple but effective movie-making features, rather than trying to develop some more ambitious proprietary cutscene generator tool. That isn't to say that the feature we got doesn't leave a lot to be desired.
Now you've got the Strangerhood going on with EA.
Yeah, well, they were fans of Red vs. Blue. We talked to them first at E3.
Given how much they hyped up the movie-making feature prior to the game's release, you'd think they could have given us some kind of director mode that would let players override the underlying life simulation mechanics. Sometimes it feels like you have to actively fight against the game to get even a simple shot. Sure, we now have a plethora of mods that let us disable unwanted features, trigger specific animations, and modify virtually any aspects of the game. But seriously, the fact that the authors of The Strangerhood weren't given access to any debug or developer tools is just diabolical. Anyway, even if a bit simplistic and maybe less advanced than what we would have hoped for, the solution we got in the end is at least universal and versatile, to the point that I'm able to continue making machinimas with this game 20 plus years after its release. There was one issue though. While the game let you record individual video clips, it didn't offer any tools to actually splice them into a proper coherent narrative. Luckily though, that wasn't really an issue. Remember when I said that the popularity of Sims 2 Machinima was a perfect storm? A big factor in that was Microsoft doing something good. Surprising, I know. But I'd argue that if not for the fact that Windows XP came with a free video editing program, there wouldn't have been as many Sims 2 Machinimas. It only had one video and audio track respectively, but its simplicity was actually its biggest strength, which made it the perfect gateway to editing for thousands, if not millions of kids, who otherwise wouldn't even have access to any kind of video software in the first place. It was simple, it had a very self-explanatory name, and it was already installed on your computer. And while it had been around since 2000, getting it to work hadn't always been so straightforward. At least according to this email from 2003, sent by none other than Bill Gates himself, co-founder of Microsoft. I'm glad that they sorted this out by the time Sims 2 was released, even if it took a strongly worded email from the wealthiest human on Earth. Okay, I don't mean to imply that without Windows Movie Maker, there would be no Sims Machinima at all. Of course not. But it surely lowered the barrier to entry for this hobby in a time where access to such tools was way more limited than it is nowadays. Also, it adds yet another level of funny to the already hilarious email. Okay, but making movies is only half of the fun. The other half is sharing them with the world.
Alright, so here we are, one of the elephants.
The Sims 2 came out in 2004. Just a year later, YouTube was founded. Again, perfect timing. Suddenly, both sharing and watching videos became extremely easy. If you were a fan of The Sims 2 and had access to the internet, you probably typed Sims 2 into YouTube's search bar at least once a day. Maybe you saw Helena by JD, and as you were busy picking up your jaw from the floor, you rolled a wand to make something of your own. And you could do that. All it took was to click the camera icon in the game, open up Windows Movie Maker, and put your pixelated 240p clips on the timeline. And add an Evanescence song of your choice for good measure, of course. It was 2006 and you were making a Sims 2 Machinima after all. As we've already established, as humans, we love telling stories, so it's no wonder thousands of kids made their own Sims videos and shared them on the internet.
Then all of a sudden you notice, wow, there's this whole community out there that are making these movies.
But that doesn't necessarily mean other people would want to watch them. But they did. It'd be easy to write off Machinima's popularity and just say that there was simply no alternative for anyone interested in Sims 2 videos back then, which, yes, that was also the case. But that doesn't explain why so many people still talk about Sims 2 Machinima with such strong nostalgia, even 20 years later. The thing that makes Machinima unique is that it's by players, for players. Unlike with any other medium, there's a very big overlap between those who create and those who watch.
About a month after I bought it, I saw that someone else had made a movie with it, so I thought, hey, I can do that, and so I tried it, and now I'm still doing it.
And while not every Sims player will have experience with filming or editing, they will probably know the game very well, or at least well enough to understand its limitations. One reason Helena still lives rent-free in our heads is that we all probably went through the exact same thought process while watching it. Wow, so pretty! Wait, this is The Sims? How did they pull it off? Okay, let me watch it again. Sure, we make Machinimas to tell a story, but for many viewers, the storytelling element might not even be the primary reason to watch a Machinima, or at least, it won't be the only one. I'd argue that for a lot of people, myself included, it's also about the thrill of seeing what other people are capable of achieving using the game. All the creative ways it can be transformed to look nothing like the game that I know, or all the custom content that I'm missing out on. We all play the same game, but everyone's game can look differently. And while Machinima wasn't the only way to showcase all the diverse playstyles, it was for sure more engaging than the alternative, which was to simply share static screenshots. All of that isn't to say that Sims Machinima ended the moment Sims 2 reached the end of its life cycle. No, the community is active and has been active the whole time. Each 3 versions of the game still have new Machinimas being released on a regular basis. In fact, I even recently saw a video made using The Sims 1 that I think could be described as a Machinima. There's even a yearly event called Smack, which is a platform for creators to showcase their Machinima projects, regardless of which version of the game they were made with. But at least for me, there seems to be a special kind of connection between this medium and The Sims 2 specifically. I think it's because that was the exact moment when Sims Machinima was born, and I got to experience firsthand when videos like these were simply inescapable. And that might be the reason other Sims 2 players have so much nostalgia for these videos too. one last thing before the video ends. I'd be remiss if I didn't recommend any interesting machinimas for you to check out. And while it'd be tempting to list a whole lot of videos right now, I feel like now we're all at the stage where everyone is so overwhelmed with the amount of content that even the good old word-of-mouth recommendations barely work. Remember the times when we'd actually get excited to check out the shows our friends told us about? Now it's more like, yeah, it sounds cool, let me add it to my watch my watch later list. So for that reason, I will only recommend one video to you, Soup. It's a Sims 3 machinima. Yes, you heard it right, Sims 3. Just trust me on that one and watch Soup. No, don't add it to your watch later list. Seriously, just watch it. Okay, I see you're still not convinced. Here's why I think you should watch it. Impeccable, sharp writing, great dialogue, unique fleshed out characters, amazing voice acting, perfect comedic timing, and something that I strongly appreciate as a viewer, its creator, Simplim, really respects your time. There's not a wasted second, not a single unnecessary line or unmotivated shot. Soup is proof that good storytelling doesn't require a long runtime and lots of visual effects. The first episode is only 5 minutes long, and yet it's more entertaining than most Netflix shows I've seen in my life. So if you enjoy Sims Machinimas, do yourself a favor and give it a chance.
I don't like it.
Condescending?
I'm sure a lot of people don't like it.
You said something that was not true.
Okay.
And I called it out.
Okay, sure, I'll take that.
I do not
but listen,
see how that was condescending.
It was condescending.
How?
It was condescending because you added that little jab.